Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Season 3, Episode 3 of Crunch Time with Kruck. As always, joined at the booth with Mad Max. Max, how you doing today?
Doing good, Kruck. How you doing?
Well, I kind of pulled like a reversal here, you know. You're wearing the jersey and I'm just wearing a t-shirt. It's kind of out of the usual for us.
Yeah, we're changing up a little bit, see how it goes.
Speaking of changing it up, there will be no guest appearance this episode, so if you're looking for somebody else to listen to, you might want to tune out right about now. Moving forward, we have college football, NFL talk, the wild card. Then we're going to talk a little bit about, Avalos University sports, because why not talk about our own selves? Yeah. Then we're going to wrap it up with another, not really pyramid or bracket style, but we're going to wrap up with another debate, and I think it'll be a good one. So without much more ado, we're going to jump right into it. NFL Week 2 preview. We already had one game, the Giants and the Washington football team. You want to recap that, or do you want to look forward to other games?
Yeah, I'm just going to look forward to other games here, Krug. So, looking at this week, we have the Bengals versus Bears, which is a fun game for both of us. Rival teams over there. Right now, they have Chicago at 2.5 in the game. Raiders and Steelers, that's another big game. After the Raiders, that was a crazy win they had on Monday night. See if they can come up against Steelers, a team trying to look to win the AFC North. So right now they have them at a 6-point favorite. Titans versus Seahawks, another game I'm looking forward to. The Titans, that was a tough loss there to the Cardinals. They just, in my opinion, it looked like the Titans were just, they didn't look like they belonged in that game. Cardinals just took care of them all the way through. And I'm going to talk to them a little bit later once we get into the Titans. And then finally, Sunday Night Football this week is going to be the Chiefs versus the Ravens, which should be a good game with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. They have Kansas City at 3.5. So I guess do you want to talk about any of these games in particular, or is there something else you want to talk about there, Krug?
I'm probably going to talk about the Chiefs game. So the Chiefs are playing the Ravens. The Chiefs came out slow, to say the least, last week as they were trailing by 12 points going into halftime to the Browns. And I'm not talking 2016 Browns, I'm not talking like bad Browns. Like, the Browns are now a good football team. Last year, Baker Mayfield proved that he can lead a team to the playoffs and have a decent run at it. And they came out against one of the best teams in the NFL, and they put up 22 points in the first half. Their second half performance, it wasn't that hot. They ended up losing the game, but I think the Chiefs need to come out with that energy out the gate, and the Ravens would be scared. The Ravens, on the other hand, they lost to the Raiders. That game was almost a guaranteed for every single person I've talked to. And they were thinking, the Raiders, they don't stand a chance. The Raiders this, the Raiders that. Derek Carr went out there and he said, you know what? I'm going to ice my shoulder down no matter what happens. So I'm going to throw for almost 500 yards.
Yeah.
And incredible. Went out there and just beat the Ravens, right? Mm-hmm. So the Ravens, they're mad. They're trying to bounce back. They want to hit somebody hard. The Chiefs are like, hey, we're good, but we're not good enough just to show up. The Chiefs have gotten their reality check back into them saying, hey, we still have to actually play. We can't just show up. So, I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Chiefs are going to take it, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be a high-scoring game too. But also, I think a lot of it has to do with the Ravens. We talked about the injuries they've had. A lot of it had to do with J.K. Dobbins. The running back room was just down in depth. And also, it looked like it was the first game with fans at that new stadium for the Raiders. You got to think about that. It's going to be a new atmosphere. A lot of people were there. And I got to give the Raiders a lot of credit. That game was a wild game for Monday night. And I'm going to just transition quickly for the Raiders' next opponent, Steelers, which is, to me, a totally different team than the Ravens. The Steelers are known for their defense. They know how to play it well. They held Buffalo to about, 10 points, something like that, overall in the score column. So that's a good offense, too. Josh Allen's got a great arm. So you're talking about trying to not like Derek Carr threw for 435 yards, which is what he did last game. That Steelers defense with T.J. Watt, all those great linebackers they have in the secondary, that's going to be a big key, I think, for the Steelers. So I'm watching that game in particular to see if the Raiders are for real, especially if you're a Chiefs fan, right? You want to see your competition, and the Raiders could be that team possibly to watch for the Chiefs. You never know. So,
yeah, and then another game I'm looking at, I'm a Chicago Bears fan. You are a Cincinnati Bengals fan. And this game, I think it'll actually be a better game than most people are expecting. The Bears, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The Bears got taken to Pound Town on Sunday Night Football. The Rams showed up with, Matt Stafford, and nobody knew how that was going to pan out because Stafford was a great quarterback on a terrible team. Yeah. So he just, naturally people thought he was worse than he was. He goes over to LA, gets an entire offseason working out with these guys, getting ready, getting, in sync. First drive, he throws for a 67-yard touchdown. All the Bears DBs had to do was literally touch him, and he would be down. But they just said, nah, you work this hard, we'll just give you the touchdown, whatever. But, Andy Dalton turned the ball over twice in the first quarter. Couldn't finish drives to save his life. And then the Cincinnati Bengals, it's like, they look like they're going to be a great team, but there's always that one thing that messes up. Like, even you as a Bengals fan, you know it.
I know it.
There's always that one thing. Like last year, everybody's like, oh, Joe Burrow. And then he gets hurt, and then everybody's like, oh, we suck again. It's like with the Bears. Yeah, we drafted Justin Fields, but who's the quarterback running out to play the ball? Yeah. Andy Dalton. Speaking of which, it will be a revenge game. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much revenge you can really get from the Bengals because, when he was with the Bengals, he sucked. Andy Dalton sucked on the Bengals.
Yeah, he didn't really take the Bengals too much to the promised land. And with playoffs, there was one time he had a chance to go to the playoffs, and I'll quickly sum it up. We had a chance, but then one of our defense players, Vontaze Burfict, made a hit, and overall we lost the game. But anyways, there was about 4 or 5 straight years had a chance for the Bengals to make the playoffs and not. So definitely I think there'll be a revenge game for Dalton and overall. But I think I'm looking at the Bengals, and we talked about, just like you briefly said, there's something with the Bengals. You think they're good. I think it also has to do with how the Bengals defense is. That's another big key to me. Sometimes the Bengals, they're secondary. They get beat up a lot of times. They sometimes don't look like they're in sync, and they sometimes mess up plays. So that's another big key for me is how is this Bengals defense going to be? Because the offense now, we got a lot of good weapons now. We got Jamar Chase. We got T. Higgins. Which are they're okay. They ain't great receivers, but I think they're trying to be on the upcome. You know what I mean? They want to be that next guy in the wide receiver room. But if I had to say this, Kruck, I am going to pick probably the Chicago Bears to win this game. And I'm going to say it because I feel like the Bears defense will make a play at the end to stop the Bengals from scoring. And I think that'll be a big key. And I believe that Andy Dalton will find a way to make a deep pass and win the game for the Bears. So that's what I believe. So I think Chicago will win over Cincinnati.
So I'm looking at Monday Night Football right now. The Detroit Lions will be going to Lambeau Field to play the Green Bay Packers. And
what'd you think of Aaron Rodgers' first performance? It didn't look good for him in the first game.
It's one of his worst performance ever.
Yeah.
Or ever. Like it was bad. Mm-hmm. But that's what happens when you spend an entire off season basically bad-mouthing an organization just to basically walk back to it with your tail between your legs. Mm-hmm. Like, he wanted a trade, and he made it publicly known. And Green Bay said, we would have allowed you to have been traded, right? We love you enough that if you want to leave, we would have let you go. But since you went behind our back about it, we're not giving you any respect. There was no respect in that entire situation. Everybody's like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. He can go here, wherever, and be good. I don't doubt it. But the dude pulled one of the shadiest moves I've seen in the last, I don't know how many years of football. Almost as shady as Gronk retiring to come out of retirement to go down to Tampa and win a Super Bowl. He basically said, Brady picked up the phone and said, hey, Gronk, I got one more ring for you. Come down here and pick it up. And he drove from, the snowy and cold Massachusetts down to Florida, where the guy looks like he's from, and just partied all summer. But that game, Packers-Lions, I think the Packers are going to win it because there's no way that you have a top 3 quarterback and a top 3 wide receiver, and you cannot score more than 3 points. Like Aaron Rodgers, if I was him, I would be in the mindset that every drive I have to score. Because Green Bay's defense is not that good of a defense.
No, I agree with that.
But he is a high potent enough quarterback who has found a way throughout his entire career to be successful with one good wide receiver. There were 2 years in his actual NFL career where he had a decent amount of receivers. all he has is Devontae Adams, and that's all he needs. This guy can run slants open, fades open, seams open, posts open, 5-yard in, hitch, doesn't matter. Any route you want him to run, he'll be open. Their running back, it's Aaron Jones, right?
Yes, Aaron Jones.
He is good. He does not get enough credit. Between those three and then their offensive line, I don't see the Lions being able to stop that offense. It's going to be a train. It may be a slow train, but it's a train.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I kind of agree with you. I think it's a statement game for Green Bay. I think they need to make a statement, especially all of the teams in the AFC North lost in their first game of the week. So that's big, you know what I mean? All those teams lost, so that means
the NFC North.
Yeah, NFC North. My fault.
No, you're good. You're good.
But that's important, especially to get that win in the win column. And I think for Aaron Rodgers, everyone's thought this possibly could be his last year at Green Bay. Remember, he only signed it for a year that we're talking about here. Who knows what his career could be afterwards? So you might as well make the most of it, because this is a team. Even when Aaron Rodgers went there, they made the NFC Championship 2 years straight back to back, even with all this drama going on. So that's a big key to me for this team, is they got to find some mindset. They got to go in the locker room. They just got to come together. So that's an important thing. I'm going to quickly talk about this game, Kruck. It's going to be the Titans versus Seahawks. And I just want to talk basically about the Titans. Obviously, last week was, like I mentioned before, the Cardinals beat them 38-13. I'm trying to look at the team, how Derrick Henry played. I say this about Derrick Henry is, I think Derrick Henry is, to me, one of the top tier kind of running backs in the league. Looking at it, he only ran for 58 yards in total in that game. And that's for a team that's the Titans, they are a run-first offense. They like to run the ball, try to go between the tackles, outside, and Derrick Henry just didn't have any room for it. But that also leads for play action behind it. When you have a good running game, play action with Ryan Tannehill, that's their offense. And they do very good with it. And a person like Julio Jones, too, they got him in the offseason. This kid only got 3 receptions, 39 yards. And for a guy that's been in the league for that long, I don't know how many years he's been in the league, Kruck, but that man, he's had production. And speaking of a player that's been on kind of a good, kind of bad kind of team, that's Julio Jones, just like we talked about with Stafford. It's been the same situation. So I think it's going to have to be a statement game for the Titans, but it is hard going into Seattle. That's another thing. Going hard to Seattle, playing Russell Wilson and those boys. I will probably take Seattle in that game over the Titans.
Absolutely. We're going to transition forward now into college football week 3 predictions, and then the AP poll did drop as well. So we'll talk about the rankings, who we think is in the right spot, who we don't. The first game that I want to tackle for week 3 of college football is Northern Illinois versus Michigan. Michigan's ranked number 25, and Northern Illinois, NIU, they're not really that spectacular, but I really am not that confident in Michigan. Michigan, ever since they got Coach Harbaugh, I have never been a fan of the Michigan Wolverines. They're 2-0 right now, but I personally don't see them playing that well against this team. I think they're going to play down to the competition.
What was the spread of that game? You know what it said at all?
I don't have it in my notes right now, but I personally don't like that matchup, because Michigan is the stereotypical team that will play down to their opponent. Like if they played Avila University, they would play down because Avila is not the same as Michigan. But yet at the same time, they also play up. Like when they play against Ohio States or Oklahoma States, like these big time schools, they play up to their competition. They usually don't win against them, but they play up to their competition.
Yeah.
So, I think it'll be a closer game than it should be, but I'll still take Michigan by a touchdown.
Yeah, I think, especially just with Michigan, I think a lot of that's got to do with Michigan overall. I think it's because the talent. I think the talent that Michigan's getting, especially with Harbaugh, is not what it is used to. Now, I would probably say that I believe they'll probably take care of Northern Illinois pretty easily. I just think that because Michigan at the moment they'll probably beat the easier teams. At least they should. We always say that in college football. You should beat the easy teams, but then we remember the time when Michigan lost to Appalachian State a couple years back, and you never know. So one game I want to preview real quick, Kruck, is Auburn versus Penn State. I looked at this game. This one's a very intriguing game, and obviously it's going to be a whiteout for Penn State. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a tradition at Penn State where all of their fans come in like with white uniforms at nighttime. It's just a crazy atmosphere. And basically, it's in State College, Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere. But this Penn State team is very interesting to me because they have a good receiver, Jihad Dotson. He makes a lot of plays. And then also they have a quarterback that's from the Ohio area, used to play at, I believe, Cincinnati Elder, and Sean Clifford. And he's a very okay kind of quarterback. And I always talk about Penn State. Everyone kind of leaves them behind because everyone's talking about, oh, well, they beat Ohio State every year. Sometimes they don't. And then they always fall behind. So that's an important part. That's why I always forget about Penn State. But maybe now with Ohio State, with my team losing a game, will Penn State possibly be this team this year that makes a move? And playing an Auburn team that to me is okay. You know, they have Bo Nix, a quarterback that makes a lot of plays. So, but here's the thing: you're going in an atmosphere like that at nighttime. That's always hard to play. Anytime you go in that stadium, it's a very good atmosphere, and it's going to be crazy from start to finish. So I say Auburn's going to try to keep it close at the beginning. It might be close, but Penn State's going to find a way with the running game too, I believe, to win at the end. So I think it's going to be a good game, especially for Penn State. Both of these teams, I believe, need this game if they want to make a move in the playoff and the rankings. I think that will be an important game for both teams, and I guess we'll see the result.
So yeah, it was either last week or 2 weeks ago. There was the battle for Iowa, where Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa State was last week. Yep.
Yeah. So that happened. The battle for Iowa. The next battle I'm looking at is the battle for Virginia. West Virginia, which is a different state than Virginia, is taking on Virginia Tech, right? I think that'll be a really good game. Virginia Tech's number 15. You know, they're all Avila University is also number 15, but you know, different NAIA. So like, yeah, West Virginia and Virginia Tech. I think that'll be a really good game. I am not that confident in Virginia Tech. I don't think that they're all they're hyped up to be. But, you know, anytime you play, you know, it may not necessarily be their rival school, but it is one of their top competitors. Like, every school has that one rival, but you have so many different teams that you just love to play against. Like, you love to do it. Mm-hmm. So I think this will be a really good game. I honestly see West Virginia winning by a field goal.
Wow.
I'm calling the upset.
All right. Hey, I mean, I would say this. Virginia Tech, they first beat North Carolina. That's kind of when I got to kind of hear them, know them about how the situation was. That's why I kind of was like, hey, Virginia Tech might be a team. That was the first game of the year. North Carolina had Sam Howell. So we were like, hey, we never know about Virginia Tech. But I think that'll be a close game, too. That'll be a close game. Probably both teams will keep it close overall. But there's just one more other game looking at real quick, then we can talk about the AP poll. Alabama versus Florida. Another game that I'm looking at. This is basically the first, I believe, obviously true test for Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. And this is going to be a test for him because he's a young quarterback. He's played young team. He's played against Miami, Florida, which was not bad, but I don't think their defense is up to par, possibly maybe as a Florida or another team. So this is going to be, and also it's SEC play. And anytime you play in the SEC, I'll tell you this, Kruk, it's a hard conference. You know what I mean? It's a hard conference, left and right. So I believe that I think Alabama will win. I still think they might win by maybe like 14 points overall. But don't be surprised, especially playing in Florida with a packed house there, if Florida can make some plays and keep it low scoring. I think that's their key. Their offense isn't explosive as it was last year. They don't have Kyle Trask or Kyle Pitts on the tight end. They don't have those pieces anymore. Maybe if Alabama can get started away, I think they'll pull away at the end. So
I have two last college games I want to talk about. The first one, number 4, Oregon, is taking on Stony Brook. First off, I don't get it. Like, they just beat, sorry to keep putting salt in your wound, but they just beat Ohio State. That is a huge win. And now they're playing a school called Stony Brook. I'm sorry, but like, if you're that good, why are you playing teams that aren't that good? You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm good enough to walk on the team, but at the same point, you're ranked top 5 in the nation. At least schedule them like a ranked team. And then the second game I'm talking about, Ohio State and Tulsa. Ohio State, they lost. And they don't like to lose. and they're playing Tulsa. Tulsa's like, hey, look at Ohio State. We got all this film. We can break it down like Oregon did. Ohio State's going to go in there, and they might kill somebody. Like, their defense is going to be hitting harder than, like, Ray Lewis. Like, this game will be a nasty game. If Ohio State does not find its way back into the top 5 after this game, I'm going to stop believing the polls. Because Ohio State is going to go into this game, they may not let them score. Like, it may be a 70-0 game. Those are the 2 games that I personally, like, I don't think they're going to be good games. They're going to be absolute murder games. So if you like high-scoring offenses, watch those 2.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to Ohio State, I think it's important that Ohio State can clean up some things, right? And they can clean up, I think maybe they just got to turn their defensive scheme up. I just think most of the time they played a lot of tight man-to-man coverage. And the thing about Oregon is Oregon's got speed, and their whole athletes got speed, and it looked like they just outran us from the get-go. Now, Tulsa's obviously a different animal than Oregon. I think probably looking at our schedule, besides maybe Penn State and maybe another team that could possibly be there, I think Ohio State should be able to win most of their games. They should. I say that because Ohio State has that potential to do it. And I think with our offense I think our offense is fine. I think everyone knows C.J. Stroud can probably develop, I believe, more into a better pocket passer. But I think if possibly Ohio State can get the defense, especially the secondary, because I think it has a lot to do with our secondary being young. We have 2 young corners playing right now, and our safeties they're not there yet either. So I think that's a big thing. Hopefully they change it up on defense this week, and I agree with you, Krug. I think this game's going to be a kill. I think the game's going to be about maybe like a 56 to about 7, maybe a 56 to 10 kind of game. You know what I mean? Kind of more of a statement game for Ohio State. So hopefully that happens.
So moving forward, we're going to talk about the MLB wild card. There's a new face in the NL wild card. Who is it? The St. Louis Cardinals. Every single team's fans from around the world hate the Cardinals fans. And if you're a Cardinals fan, you hate everybody else. That's about the long and short of it. They are right now holding one of 2 spots in the wild card. The other one is held by the Dodgers. The Dodgers have clinched. There's no way.
Yeah.
They're in. They have a plus 17 right now. But, Slam Diego, the Reds, the Phillies, San Diego, Cincinnati, and the Phillies are all within 3 games of that 1 spot. St. Louis has a hard schedule coming up. San Diego, they're done for. They're not going to make it in. They are a team built for April, not October. The Reds, I still feel like the Reds have a good chance at it. I mean, the Reds, they're playing the Dodgers tonight, so they probably won't win tonight. But the rest of their schedule is pretty easy. The Phillies, I mean, they made a really hard push, but the push was too late. What do you think about the wild card? Do you think the Cardinals are going to hold on to it?
Yes.
Or do you think the Reds are going to take it back?
Yeah, so the NL wild card it changed very drastically, because if you think about it, the second place team was the Reds. And I think when I first talked about the Reds, right, I said if they take care of business, don't lose to teams that they shouldn't. And looking at the past couple games, what did they do? They lost to teams that they shouldn't. You know what I mean? That's kind of brought the Cardinals back. And also, the Cardinals and the Reds play in the same division. So, in the same league. So that's another thing too, is the Cardinals swept the Reds in that series. So that's another reason why the Cardinals now are that at this point. But also, I think if you just look at how the Cardinals are playing, looking overall, look at Nolan Arenado. He has 32 home runs. Paul Goldschmidt has 26. And then Tyler O'Neill, a guy that's a very youngster. He's the left fielder for the Cardinals. He's also got 26 home runs with 61 RBIs for this team. And I think those 3 guys are right now trying to create the offense. And also, the thing about baseball is you got to have both things. You got to have pitching and you got to have hitting. I think both their pitching staff with Adam Wainwright and Jake Flaherty is really helping this team out for the Cardinals. So, I mean, they might be possibly the second wild card team. I mean, it's probably hard right now, especially being that second wild card team, knowing that you're going to probably face the Dodgers or the Giants, one of those teams, in that position. But you know, it's you got to try the best, right? And that's going to be a thing about the Cardinals.
Looking at the other league, the American League, right now Toronto and Boston are holding the wild card seeds, and the Yankees are half a game back. Oakland A's are 3 games back. Seattle Mariners are 4, but you know, back when Keaton was on here first week, I agree with what he said. The A's aren't going to make it, and the Mariners, even if they do make it, it's going to be a murder. So it's between the Yankees, the Red Sox, and you know, the Toronto Blue Jays for those 2 wild card seats. Who do you see taking them?
I mean, looking at it right now, I think it's a battle between looking at the Blue Jays and possibly the Red Sox. And I really like what the Blue Jays are doing. You know, the Blue Jays, they got some great hitting staff. And I've always been, I think, a fan of the Blue Jays, especially with what they've had with their baseball stadium pass with COVID and overall just how they've adjusted with everything. I think that's a lot of resiliency of that organization. And I think that's a team right now looking like they could possibly get that one spot. And looking at the other one, I think that rivalry that's going to be happening possibly with the Yankees and the Red Sox, that's going to be a battle until October. I think both of those teams are going to battle between it. And I think the thing about the Yankees is the Yankees gotta keep being consistent overall each game. And they got to be consistent, especially with Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, those hitters, especially those 2. Those are 2 powerful hitters in the league. And those 2 are going to have to make a big play or big hits for this organization, I believe, if they want to make a push. So, I mean, it looks like when I look at both leagues, we have 2 leagues that are both standing out as the best 2 leagues. We look at the NL West right now in the NL, and then the AL East right now here in the AL East. Those two together
those 2
are
divisions?
So 2 divisions are definitely the best in baseball right now. So if you're looking for a possible team to win the World Series, I would probably look at one of those 2 divisions because right now they look like the best overall to possibly win the World Series here in October, Kruck.
Yeah, and then just to touch on it real quickly, right at the end of the segment, the team with the highest run differential is a wild card team. The Dodgers have a plus 244 run differential, the biggest in the MLB, but they're a wild card team. And it's crazy because when they win games, they're winning games by 6, 7 runs. When they're losing games like 2-1, 3-2. Like this team, everybody talks about the Bronx Bombers, how the Yankees just absolutely murder baseballs. The Dodgers, you better wear a hard hat if you're sitting in the bleachers in the outfield because it's raining baseballs. But yeah, moving forward, we're going to talk about Avila Athletics, the schedule we just finished, the schedule we have coming forward. These stats are brought to you by AvilaAthletics.com. Make sure to check it out. I occasionally write articles there. Max has been working on a couple articles to publish, but mainly our main executive producer, Tim Hackett, writes the majority of the articles, along with D. Minor. So what game do you want to talk about first for the Avila scores?
Yeah, so actually I was just going to mostly talk about the records overall, and just look about how and possibly. So we're looking at women's soccer, looking at men's soccer. Both right now are below 500. Women's soccer at the moment is 1-5. They got the first win over Presentation College. They won 3-2. So just overall, I think the success is we look at the women's soccer team last year, and I got to give the organization all that credit. I think they got to get back to that winning formula again. They got to come back together. And last year, what were they? 10-6-1. I think online. Is that correct? Yeah,
it's close. Yeah.
Close to that. So that's a big key for me overall. Is they got to find a way to get back to that winning formula, especially being a team like that was close in the KCAC race. That's another team to watch. For men's soccer, they have a new head coach, Robert Kelly. And they right now are 1-3. So that's another thing too. I don't want to mention it, but remember last year they did lose a game, unfortunately, 27-0. So if you want to know some soccer scores, everybody, that obviously is a very shocking score to a lot of you to hear someone have 27 goals on somebody in a soccer game. But obviously this year has not been that way, Kruck, obviously, so far. And I think maybe that they just need to, like the women's soccer team, just get it all together, get everything overall. And I believe both teams, they play at home against Bethel College, right, on Wednesday. So that's going to be a big series for both women's and men's soccer. And then finally, I'm just going to touch about is the volleyball team. They right now are 4-11 under head coach Marilyn Mosina. She's the new head volleyball coach there. They're going to play against Bellevue University at 2 p.m., which apparently I researched is that head coach's alma mater. So that's very cool. So that's going to be a game she's probably getting very prepared for. You know what I mean? She's very excited for that, and hopefully they can get a dub and probably gets 5 wins there. So.
Yeah, a couple of the games that stand out for me. I'm a big football person. You know, I've been talking about football for the first 20 minutes of the podcast. The first game for Avalos was against Tabor, and we ended up winning it 65-24. The first game of the year at the Z, and we ended up beating our opponent by 41 points. Tabor, no offense to Tabor, but they're not the cream of the crop in the KCAC.
Yes.
Bethany, this other team we're about to play at home, they would be like a good matchup for Tabor. So if we come out, we as a offensive unit, we come out, we're not flat. We come out strong and actually don't just take the game off. I could see us scoring 70 points. Like we could have easily scored 70 points at our last home game. But Coach Benavidez saw the game was well in hand, and he decided to idle it down just a little bit, didn't want to be too rude. But Bethany College, they've been saying that a storm's coming. A storm is coming. And, Coach Benavidez is a sarcastic person, but I think that the fact that Bethany thinks they have a chance has got him upset, very upset. So I would definitely mark your calendars and watch this game, Bethany versus Avalos University. That will be a great game. Another thing I'm looking at for Avalos Athletics, Avalos women's soccer versus Bethel College. I personally think that that's going to be a pretty good game. I mean, Bethel's a good team. Avalos been having a rough patch recently. I think they can turn it around in time and really make that game count. Baker, I personally like Baker in the goal for the team. Eden, she's not terrible, but at the same time, I announced for those games, and I literally said on the air, she is a top 5 goalie in the nation. That is how good I believe Baker is. And, it's up to Coach Katie, Coach LaForge, whatever she wants to do. I would put my trust in Baker.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly talking about our football team real quick. I think it's going to be, if we play to our potential, Kruck, it should be, like you mentioned, a kill. I think both offense and defense, and I think it's important for us as a football team to not overlook possibly for a Southwestern possibly next week, and then possibly for Kansas Wesleyan in the future, and Bethel. We got to just take, like I said, we got to take a week-by-week approach. And if we take a week-by-week approach, we come with a good offensive game plan and a good defensive game plan. I think we should win, and probably, hopefully, yeah, like I mentioned, you can get 70. Hey, we want to get to possibly 80 if we want to, but we'll see if Coach Benavidez wants to do that. So, but yeah, we should play. I hope we play to our potential. So.
And as two guys on the football team, the coaches have been talking to us about the gauntlet coming up, and you never want to overlook an opponent, right? Yes. You never want to do that. But after Bethany, our next 4 games are Southwestern College, Sterling College, Kansas Wesleyan University, and then Bethel College. Out of those 4 opponents, 3 of them are in the top 20 in the nation. So, that is a gauntlet coming up. That is gonna, when they test to see if you're the real stuff. Not to get copyrighted, but boys to men. If you're gonna be a boy or if you're gonna be a man. So it just depends what we're looking at.
I agree.
Is that on?
Nope, it died.
Isn't it plugged in?
Good. Take a break. You don't need to take your gas.
Alright, and our final topic will be talking about John Madden or Madden football covers. Max, which cover do you like the most?
Kruck, I'm going to start with the 2005 Ray Lewis Madden cover. And this cover, when I look at it, overall, it feels like with Ray Lewis, he has his jersey on it, so he has 52 in the jersey. And also, when he looks like he's ready to attack like something. You know what I mean? He's ready to get the tackle. You know what I mean? Attack somebody, make something happen. And it really looks intimidating. You know what I mean? I kind of like things that are more like realistic. Looks like it's possibly going to be happening. And this shot, or what they took in at it for the graphics, it looks just incredible in my eye. You know what I mean? It looks like he's just totally in focus, and it looks very cool. So I think one of the 2005 ones are really good. I also like the Madden 16 one with Odell Beckham Jr. I kind of like that one because it has him doing, if you guys don't remember possibly, one of the games he had in that season, he had a one-handed catch with his 3 fingers he caught it with, which to me is, to anything, that is just astonishing and incredible. You know what I mean? And it shows basically the whole thing with them and making that catch. And I think that's very cool too, because it's just cool to see something you don't see that often. You know what I mean? You don't see that very often, a player making that kind of plays. And it also looks very cool and realistic as well. So those are the 2 I looked at. Final one before I let you do yours. I also like the Gronk Spike 2017. I kind of like that one as well because it's Gronk. Who doesn't like Gronkowski? He's another very good, entertaining kind of person, and that's just his signature thing. You know, he likes to always do that after a touchdown, and you know, he's carried it on to be whatever. You can be a wide receiver, you can be an O-lineman, you can be a defensive player, and you can just find a way to spike the football, which is always a fun thing to do. So that's another one I like. So those are my top 3, I would say.
So I got 2 of them. One of my favorites is 04 Madden with Michael Vick. He's in the Atlanta Falcons uniform, and you know, he looks like he's rolling out, running the read option, and he was unstoppable. Michael Vick in that game was like Bo Jackson in Techno Bowl. You weren't stopping this guy, all right? But I gotta say, my personal favorite Madden cover of all time, and I encourage you to go home, look this up on your computer, your phone, you know, whatever you use to look up images. John Madden Football 88 is one of the best Madden covers of all time. You know, it didn't have the traditional, you know, Madden and then a year behind it. This was the original game that came out in 88, and they didn't make another one until 94. So it was out for a long time. And it is literally John Madden busting through a chalkboard. Like, he's running the football and he's exploding through this chalkboard. And like, if you know John Madden, like not personally, but like you know how he acts, you've seen him before, this is him. He is a big guy who knows he's a big guy, and he has fun. Like, he's smiling on the cover, he's going through the chalkboard, it's him. And I think it's one of the best covers because, like, you know, yeah, you can put players on it. Like this year, what is it, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can have them sit there and pose as if they're, you know, the cover of Vogue. But this guy, his name is the video game. He's on the picture. He made it in life. Like, everybody knows him. Whether you play football or not, you know John Madden. So, John Madden Football 88. Look up the picture. You won't be disappointed. Before we wrap up, we got an email earlier from one of our more dedicated fans explaining about how we messed up a couple of the mascots. And to address that, we would like to apologize to Xavier University. The Blue Blob is not your exact mascot. It's actually a secondary mascot, who is honestly a lot cooler than the Musketeer. So for that dedicated fan who felt the need to email us, thank you, and we'll do better. Until next time, this is Kruck. That's Max. Stay classy.